So I'm Dennis Lesea, and this is sitting in front of me is longtime Baba lover Marie Rhodes,
Hi.
and she's going to give her account of Pukar in California at her house in Weimar. Where she had a Baba meeting there, and she had many Baba meetings there with many different people, and she's going to give the account of Pukar in Weimar. So,
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Jay Baba. Um, yes, Pukar came to visit me in about 1975. At that time, I lived in a little one-bedroom house with my 2 children and my husband, and we were kind of hippies up in the mountains. And I brought lots of different people up there to speak, like Lud and Jack Small and Phyllis Fredericks. And Pukar was one of many that came up. When Pukar came up, he came up to give a talk at a place called Anandaji's, which was affiliated with Anandas. The people were living there. There was a group of around 40 people that lived in this place called Anandaji's. They were followers of Paramahansa Yogananda. I was good friends with the people there, so they let Pukar speak there to the people that were there and people from Ananda's, which was in Grass Valley. Now this is back in 1975. Not much was known about. We weren't the spiritual community we are now, and but there was a large following for Paramahansa Yogananda. So when Anandaji came to speak there, the place was packed. It was full, and it was huge. It was a huge auditorium.
Kriyananda was their main guy.
Yeah, Kriyananda. That's
Kriyananda
right.
came to talk there, right?
Kriyananda. Was it Kriyananda?
Kriyananda.
Yeah, he was the one that read. He was the vice president.
Swami Kriyananda, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the main guy.
And because he spoke, the place was packed. So everybody that were followers of Paramahansa Yogananda
right.
came also because they were really excited to have this guy that was coming from India named Pukar. And Kriyananda spoke. Is that right, Kriyananda?
Kriyananda, yeah.
Spoke first, and he talked for quite a while, and his talk was really good. And then Pukar spoke. Did you stay late up into the night for that? Were you there when the...
I wasn't there.
Late?
I wasn't there when Kriyananda spoke. I was only there the next day in the program, or the day before, where I met Pukar.
Okay.
I wasn't in Ananda.
Okay.
I wasn't at Ananda.
So, anyway, there was a really long talk. Pukar started talking, and the audience got smaller and smaller and smaller. He talked until after midnight, and nobody could understand a word he said. But everybody felt his love, so they stayed around for a very long time and listened to him. And it was his love was just really visible, and everybody could feel it. The next day, he came to my place, and he met my husband and my children. And he went for a walk with my son. He loved the goat. We had a goat, and that was something I heard him clearly say. Your son loves the goat very much. Pukar especially loved a man that we had that lived near us. This man was from Germany. He was a card-carrying communist. He was an intellectual. He was incredibly loving, and Pukar picked him up, threw his arms around him, and started spinning him around and around and around and around like a whirling dervish. And he picked him up like a toothpick. And it was the most incredible sight. Every time I think of that, I start laughing, because Pukar loved this man. His name was Ed Weber, and he was our family friend. We loved him. He was incredible, but he was a devout atheist. He never stopped talking about Pukar. He absolutely loved Pukar. So that was really a special occasion for me when he came up to my house and that happened. And then the next day he came up I was a Head Start teacher at the Auburn Head Start, and they had a class of all Vietnamese children at the Weimar Medical Center. And when he came up to school to see the kids, they all ran away, because these kids had not been there very long, and they were tiny little kids with little bangs, and they all had like pajamas on. It looked like they all had pajamas on. And to the kids, they thought a monster had come to school. They could not believe this big man. So they all ran away, and the parents all brought them back. And he made friends with all the little children. He loved the little children. He thought that place was so neat. He absolutely loved being at the Head Start Center in Weimar. And he he was there for several hours. He was there around 3 or 4 hours with the kids, and I took him on a tour of the grounds, and he was fascinated by it. And so he visited for quite a while, and there was just, I cannot describe the love. I mean, you'd have to be around Pukar to know the unconditional love that emanated from his being. He was a Baba lover that you could just feel his love beyond anything that you can describe, just beyond words. So I have a great love for Pukar. It was a great experience having Pukar come to my house. And so that's my story about Pukar and Jai Baba. I hope you enjoyed. And happy Easter, everyone. So I guess you're going to see this for Easter. And I wish all of you a blessed, holy Jai Baba Easter. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to give my little account of my encounter with Pukar at Marie's place. At the same time, it was in the evening. I don't know if it was the day before or after he did his thing at Ananda. Anyway, it was like a Baba meeting, and there were a lot of people there, maybe 100 people there. And I met Pukar outside. I came up with my wife, Tricia, and I came and I met him outside, and he was this huge guy. I mean, he was just a very big guy, really imposing looking fellow, but his eyes were just incredible. He just emanated Baba's love. He just had this divine love about him. He really had that divine energy. He had the divine energy about him, and in spite of what I understood, I didn't talk to him much or understand much. So anyway, I was walking around, and somehow I lost track of him, and I was outside looking around, and I came back in the hall where he was, and there was probably 40 people in this hall, and he was sitting in this big chair, and he was sitting. He had it caught my attention. He's got this young guy sitting in his lap, maybe 16, 18 years old, looked like a homeless kid with long hair, really disheveled, and you know, it looked like he. Maybe he had been into drugs, you know, the young people were taking drugs, this drug and that drug and acid and this and that, and getting all confused and screwed up. This kid looked like he was really probably somebody that had done too many drugs or had a problem, and it ended up homeless and in trouble somehow. Anyway, he's sitting in Pukar's lap. Pukar is so large, he's sitting in his lap. And Pukar has him holding him like a big baby, like he was holding a baby, and he was just stroking his back and stroking his chest, and just wasn't saying anything to him at all. He was just, and the kid was just laying there. Just you could tell he was giving. This kid was experiencing that love that Pukar was giving. It was just a pure example of selfless service. I mean, Baba talks about selfless service. I've known about Mayor Baba since '68, and he always talked about selfless service. And well, that was my example. That was for my life at that age. Was my example of, you know, it was my answer for what is selfless service.
Do you know how old Pukar was when he came up? What age he was?
Pukar?
Mm-hmm. I don't have any idea how old he was.
He's possibly 60s.
Oh, that's not.
In his 60s.
He was young.
He was in his 60s.
That seems young now.
It seems young to you, yeah, and me.
Yeah, back then that seemed probably old.
I think he was in his 60s, late 60s maybe, because he knew Baba in the 40s, so, you know, when he was a young man in the 40s, so, and maybe late 50s, 60s.
He was ageless. It was hard. You couldn't define the age for him.
He had those eyes, big eyes that were just full of love. Anyway,
you have Baba eyes.
Yeah, that was my experience with Pukar. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.